Hi YouTube, I've got another video for you. Um, in this video I want to talk about happiness, and I apologize in advance if this gets a little technical because I've done a lot of research on happiness in my philosophy courses in college, so I kind of have a lot to say. I'm going to try to keep it from getting too technical and boring for everyone, but in doing so I might lose some accuracy, so for any philosophy buffs I do apologize. Anyhow, by happiness, I don't mean having a good job and money and a lover and all that ordinary life stuff like people spend their lives aiming for. I also don't mean the emotion happiness, like smiling and laughing happiness. So what do I mean by happiness? Well, what I mean is eudaimonia. You're probably thinking, what the heck is eudaimonia? Well, it's a Greek word, and it goes back to Aristotle's philosophies. It's often translated as happiness, but it's generally agreed that a better translation would be human flourishing. Human flourishing, or eudaimonia, for Aristotle is the goal of life. In other words, the point of life is to achieve happiness. And I agree with Aristotle 100%. I also agree largely with his view about how to achieve happiness. So what is his view? Well, it has to do with virtue. For Aristotle, some of the virtues are honesty, temperance, courage, and justice. To achieve happiness, you have to be virtuous, and to be virtuous, you have to find a mean between two extremes in each aspect of life. Let me explain using temperance as an example. Temperance is concerned with pleasure and pain. The two extremes for temperance are to be profligate on one end and to be insensate on the other. In other words, seeking too much pleasure through money and food and drink and that sort of thing, versus not feeling much pleasure or pain at all, which is pretty rare, admittedly. The key to achieving the virtue of temperance is to shoot for the mean, or the middle between the two extremes. If you can achieve the virtue of temperance, you'll be well on your way to happiness, assuming you have the other virtues in line too. This is where I think bipolar disorder comes in. Obviously, bipolar is a disorder involving extremes. We get extremely low and insensate and numb and miserable when we're depressed, and we get excessive and pleasure-seeking and wild when we're manic. And to me, neither extreme equates to real happiness or eudaimonia. Also, neither extreme is virtuous, and for Aristotle, virtue and happiness are basically the same thing. In my view, the key to happiness for a person with bipolar disorder is exactly what Aristotle thinks it is, finding a mean between two extremes. Obviously, this is much easier said than done, but I think it's worth it to try to find balance in life. To not even try would be to submit to being miserable for the rest of your life, and I don't think anyone really wants to do that. I don't have the answer as to how to achieve balance, but there are some basic rules of thumb that seem to help. Having a balanced diet and not indulging in excessive alcohol, caffeine, or sugar seems to help. Also, getting enough sleep instead of too much or too little seems to help. And spending a reasonable amount of time with other people seems to be more conducive to happiness than spending too much time with others or isolating yourself completely. Also, exercising helps, but again, not too much or not too little. I've found that when I'm able to achieve these balances between their respective extremes, I'm happy. And not just laughing, smiling happy, but fulfilled and flourishing happy. But the problem is, when you're already depressed or manic, balance can seem impossible to achieve. Luckily, Aristotle has a good pointer to help us out, which is having a role model. If you have someone in your life who lives a balanced life, or at least knows how to live a balanced life, they can help you directly. They can exercise with you, eat with you, check in with you about your sleep schedule, remind you not to drink too much coffee or alcohol, and other things like that. If you're not one of the lucky few people who already has a great role model in your life, then a good place to look for one is in a support group. I feel like I talk a lot about support groups in my videos, but I do think they're really, really important. Or, alternatively, you can ask a family member or friend that you trust to check in with you on a regular basis about your eating, sleeping, and exercise to help you get on track to living a balanced life. This video is getting a tiny bit long, so I'll cut it short. Thanks for watching, and I hope I've been able to teach you a little bit about Aristotle's views on happiness and how they can be applied to living with bipolar and achieving happiness. If you have any comments or questions, please do comment. I love getting comments from people. Alright, thank you. Bye.